Today we contemplate the mystery of Holy Saturday, the day of great silence and joyful expectation. Just as God rested after creating the universe, so did the Son rest after completing the work of redemption.
Did you listen carefully? At first glance, it seems like just a beautiful reflection on the silence and anticipation of what is called Holy Saturday. But there is something much deeper and more dangerous behind these words. When a religious leader speaks this way, he is not just describing a tradition. He is laying the groundwork for an idea that could confuse millions of people about God's true Sabbath. That's what we need to talk about today. Pope Leo spoke about the so-called Holy Saturday, a term widely used within the Catholic tradition. But does this have any connection with the biblical Sabbath, the fourth commandment established by the Creator himself? Or are we facing yet another strategy to divert attention from the true day of rest? Today, we are going to analyze what this speech really means in light of the Bible and prophecy. Before continuing, I ask you to like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and share this video. And I want you to comment below. Do you believe that this type of speech could be preparing the world to accept a false Sabbath? Your opinion is very important. The so-called Holy Saturday is an ancient tradition within the Catholic Church. It takes place between Jesus' death on Friday and his resurrection on Sunday morning. According to the Vatican, this is a day of silence, mourning, and expectation, when the faithful await Christ's final victory over death. In Catholic liturgy, this Saturday is not seen as the fulfillment of the fourth commandment, but rather as a symbolic moment, the day Christ remained in the tomb. That is why it is called the Saturday of Silence, or Saturday of the Tomb. At first glance, it may seem like just a religious remembrance, but take a closer look. By calling this day Holy Saturday, Rome creates a parallel idea, almost a redefinition, that has nothing to do with the Sabbath instituted by God at creation. The biblical Sabbath was blessed, sanctified, and established as a memorial of the creative work. This Holy Saturday, on the other hand, is a human tradition, constructed to reinforce Catholic theology and divert attention from the commandment that God wrote with his own finger. What may seem like just a symbolic expression actually hides a great spiritual risk. When the Pope speaks of the Holy Saturday, he is not referring to the seventh day established by God in creation, but to Sunday, introduced as a day of rest centuries later. The story is clear. In 321 AD, Emperor Constantine made Sunday the official day of rest in an attempt to unify his empire under a single religious practice. This change, which did not come from the Bible, paved the way for Rome to impose a human tradition in place of the divine commandment. And now we see something even more troubling. Rome tries to give the impression of supporting the biblical Sabbath, but at the same time exalts Sunday as the Holy Saturday. It is the strategy of the two Sabbaths to create confusion, to mix truth and error, so that many will not notice the difference between the seal of God and the mark of the beast. This movement is not new. The book The Great Controversy already warned that Rome would use human traditions to obscure God's law and prepare the ground for a future worldwide imposition of the false day of worship. The Pope's speech is not only religious, but prophetic. It signals that deception is becoming increasingly subtle and sophisticated. Faced with this confusion created by human tradition, we need to return to the only sure source, the Word of God. And when we open the Bible, we find with absolute clarity that the Sabbath is the seventh day of the week, instituted by the Creator himself. In the account of creation in Genesis 2:2-3, it is written, "And on the seventh day God finished his work, which he had done, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had done. Then God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it." From the beginning, the Sabbath was set apart as a memorial of creation, a sign between God and humanity. Centuries later, at Sinai, the commandment was reaffirmed with divine authority. In Exodus 20:8-11, the fourth commandment says, "Remember the Sabbath day, to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God." It was not Moses who instituted it. It was not Israel who created it. It was God who commanded it, and he does not change. Even in Jesus' ministry, we see this truth confirmed. Christ himself kept the Sabbath, Luke 4:16, and the disciples, after his death and resurrection, continued to observe that day, Acts 17:2. The New Testament presents no commandment authorizing the change from Saturday to Sunday. The biblical Sabbath is therefore more than a day of rest. It is an eternal sign of the covenant between God and his people. In Ezekiel 20:20, the Lord declares, "Keep my Sabbaths holy, and they will be a sign between me and you, so that you may know that I am the Lord your God." While Rome promotes human traditions, the Bible points to an unchanging truth. The Sabbath is God's seal, a weekly reminder that he is the creator and redeemer of humanity. What makes this discussion even more relevant is that the Sabbath is not just a historical or theological topic. It has become a subject of discussion around the world. People from different backgrounds are beginning to rediscover the importance of the seventh day, and this is drawing the attention of religious leaders who do not want the truth to spread. When Pope Leo now speaks of the Holy Sabbath, he is not just recalling ancient traditions. He is reacting to this growing trend of valuing the Sabbath of creation. It is as if Rome is trying to appear neutral by supporting both Sabbaths, while in practice promoting an alternative day to confuse the faithful. This strategy is subtle but powerful. By mixing God's true Sabbath with the false Sabbath of tradition, an impression of legitimacy is created around human practices. The Bible, however, is clear. No man-made day can replace the Lord's Sabbath. We are living in days when observing the true Sabbath is not only an act of faith, but also a prophetic sign. Every time the Bible is studied, every time the three angels' messages are proclaimed, the contrast between truth and error becomes evident. And that is precisely why speeches such as Pope Leo's must be carefully analyzed. They reveal how the world is being prepared to accept false spiritual standards. The Bible warns us that in the last days, many will try to change times and laws. Daniel 7:25. This prophecy is not just about the past or ancient traditions. It is being fulfilled before our eyes today. When Rome promotes the Holy Saturday, creating the illusion that it supports the Sabbath of creation, it is, in practice, preparing the ground for the imposition of a false day of worship. The goal is to confuse God's people by mixing truth and error and turning millions away from divine law. Revelation 13 describes the action of religious powers that, in alliance with world authorities, seek to standardize worship and establish norms that contradict God's will. This is exactly the scenario that Pope Leo's speech signals, a subtle but prophetic movement to legitimize human practices in place of the true Sabbath. The book, The Great Controversy, makes it clear that throughout history, Rome has always sought to obscure the true Sabbath and promote human traditions as substitutes. Today, we see this same strategy in action. Speeches, trends, and misinterpretations are used to prepare humanity to accept a spiritual standard invented by man. The message is clear. God's people must stand firm, discerning the truth from traditions, and recognizing the true seal of God, the Sabbath of creation. Every movement contrary to the divine commandment is, in reality, a warning that we are living in the final days of prophecy. What we have seen today is a clear warning. When leaders promote human traditions as if they were divine, God's people must be vigilant and stand firm in the truth. The Sabbath is not just a day of the week. It is the seal of the Creator, a memorial of creation, and a sign of the eternal covenant between God and humanity. Now, more than ever, it is time to reflect. Are you following God's true Sabbath, or are you being led astray by human traditions that confuse and mislead? The call is urgent. The faithful remnant must rise up, study the Word, observe the Lord's Sabbath, and share the truth with everyone around them. Don't wait for others to decide for you. Every choice you make today will have eternal consequences. If this video has brought you clarity, reflection, or awakened your heart, do your part. Like, share, subscribe to the channel, and comment below. Tell us, do you keep the Creator's Sabbath and understand the importance of this sign in prophetic times? Your opinion strengthens this community and helps spread God's truth. Remember, remaining faithful to the Lord's Sabbath is more than a religious choice. It is an act of obedience that marks who you truly follow. Don't let human traditions steal what God has sanctified.